thing you have to do is try to get your child off of what they love doing the most and off of what they love more than their mom. And they love more than their family. And they love more than the dreams they had when they were younger. You know, one thing I learned is that I try to tell them that when they're buying drugs, they don't have to bring money with them. They should bring everybody they love, everything they love, everybody who loves them, everything they dreamed about, and all their hopes and dreams, and put them on the drug dealer's table, because that's what they trade in order to do drugs. There was a gentleman, Carol O'Connor. Carol O'Connor said, do whatever you have to do to get between your child and drugs. A lot of parents ask me, what should I do? I don't know what to do. I tell them, dial 911. If you find drugs in their room, dial 911, have them arrested. Tell them that you'll drop charges when they get out of rehab. You know, I've been doing this a long time, 15 years. June 22nd, 2001, I was in my second rehab and my 5th detox. And I have 15 years in recovery today. I want you to know that when I was younger, my father was murdered in New York. My father was murdered, I was 11 years old. He was shot and killed by John Gotti when I was 11, and I found out who killed my father when I was 21. And I have to tell you that when my father died, I promised I would never be like him. At his funeral, I remember saying, the one thing you taught me was I never want to be like you. And I have to tell you that no matter what I promised, as soon as I had my first drink, my first joint, my first line, I was him. I became my father because it's in the DNA. It's not a choice, it's not a decision. It's a disease, not a decision. So how do we fight the disease? Tough love is still love. And I'm going to tell you a situation that I was in when I was in active addiction. I had a domestic dispute with my wife, which I took an egg sandwich and smushed it in her face, and I poured hot coffee over her head and told her it was all her fault that I was doing drugs. She in turn dialed 911 and said, we'll see whose fault it is now. The police came. One police officer went with her, one police officer stood with me. The police officer with her came to me and he said, we could do this one of two ways, son. We could do this the hard way, or we could do this the easy way. It's your choice. And after coming off a 3-day run with cocaine and alcohol, my words in his ear were, today is going to be the hardest day of your life. And the police officer looked at me, and he reached on his shoulder, and he just said, police officer in trouble, and he gave my address. And you have never seen 1,000 police officers come so quickly. And I remember the rage I was in, because I was so angry that I couldn't stop. I didn't know why I couldn't stop, but I couldn't stop. And I remember when the police officer looked at me, and I felt that rage, and I was ready to commit suicide by police officer that day. And someone came behind me and grabbed me and said, Joe, we love you. The most powerful words that I could ever hear at that moment, because at that moment of clarity, that moment, I started to cry. The tears came that only an addict knows they cry. Okay, so I was in this rehab, and I said, I gotta find out what I missed, because I obviously missed something if I relapsed after 10 years. And I went to rehab, and then I promised God, I said, God, if you keep me off of these drugs, I promise you that I'll help anybody who reaches out to me. Anyone who reaches their hand out, I'll help them. And as soon as I said those words, my phone started ringing. And you realize how many people don't know what to do when their kid goes from playing Little League or being a cheerleader and so happy to stealing, lying, manipulating, hanging out with these people that you have no idea where they came from, changing of their friends who want to go to college, and becoming somebody that you have no idea who your child is. I've done interventions on 13-year-olds and 85-year-olds. I've done them in the projects in Brooklyn, in a billionaire's house in Arkansas. Park Avenue to Park Bench. Addiction doesn't care who you are, doesn't care how much money you have. It just wants to kill you slowly. My father committed suicide by gangster. I realized that after I became him, and I wanted to die so bad. So what do we do as parents? Because I'm a parent too. I have two boys. One is 25 and the other one's 27, and they haven't spoken to me in 15 years. They haven't spoken to me because I got divorced from their mom. I have a 4-year-old daughter who was a birthday present for me late, so while all my friends would show me their photos of their grandchildren, I was showing them my daughter. And that's a gift from recovery. All right, now, when I was younger, my grandparents raised me because my father was murdered when I was 11, so we moved in with my grandparents. And I remember my grandfather saying, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "Pop, I know what I want to be. I want to be an actor." And he looked at me and said, "An actor? They're all gay. You can't be an actor." And I was like, "I can't be. I'm not gay. I can't be an actor." He said, "You be a sanitation man. You work for the city and you get benefits." So my dream of being an actor was cut down because he didn't believe that I could make it in acting. Because he didn't believe it in himself. So I surrendered my dreams, and the day I became a sanitation man, my grandfather celebrated like I had a double birthday of 25 years old again. But I didn't have my dream. And the truth is, when I got out of rehab the second time, I had a sponsor who asked me what I wanted to do. He said, "What do you want to do with your life?" I said, "I want to be on TV." And he said, "How are you going to be on TV?" At least he didn't say they're all gay on TV. So I said, "I never learned how to be on TV, but I'm going to learn how to be on TV now because I want to be on TV." And the truth is, I thought I could be on TV by opening my front door and saying, "I'm ready to audition. If anybody wants me on their show, come and get me." And I closed the door. But I learned you have to go and audition in New York. And I auditioned in New York, and I got an off-Broadway play. I played in a play called The Sopranos' Last Spaghetti Dinner. I was playing Tony Soprano in a dinner theater show. Right out of rehab, I got this job. It was a dream come true. I did it. I did an episode of The Sopranos. I was on Don't Forget the Lyrics with Wayne Brady. I won $200,000 singing on this show. And a drug addict like me, there's hope. Everybody who says, "Oh, no, you don't know me, you don't know my story." No, I do know your story. You're gifted, you're sensitive, you're a brilliant child. You just got caught up in drugs, because all drug addicts are not bad people. They don't have to get good, they have to get well. And treatment is the only way to get them well. It's not like, "Well, I'm going to do Suboxone next week, all right? And I know my friend did it, or I'm going to try methadone, or I'm going to go to outpatient." Because if you try to say rehab to one of your children who's on drugs, it's almost like the F word to an addict. "I ain't going to rehab." So I'm going to make a suggestion to you that I use on my interventions. I tell the kids that they're going to a behavioral modification facility. I never use the word rehab. I'm bringing you to a behavioral modification facility, and you know what they say? "Oh, okay, then I don't mind that. I just don't want to go to rehab." So that's the disease kicking in too. The disease doesn't want you getting better. And how do you do it? How do you do it? You pray a lot. I learned in recovery that there is a God and his name's not me. I learned in recovery that my children have a God and his name's not me. I learned in recovery that maybe I was only meant to meet my wife, to have my 2 boys, and that's it. And now they're on their path. But this is what I learned in recovery. Guy told me, "Welcome to the school of life, Joe," when I went into a meeting. School of life. I looked at him like, "School of life? What are you talking about? School of life? It's a meeting." The truth is, I learned more about life in meetings than I ever learned anywhere else from anybody else. When I ask addicts, I do groups in treatment centers. And I ask groups of addicts, 100 addicts, "How many of you How many of your parents talk to you about sex? No hands go up. So nobody talks about that. That's still a stigma too. The birds and the bees. Nobody ever told me about the birds and the bees. But we have to start talking about addiction like we don't talk about addiction like we don't talk about the birds and the bees. It is not a shameful thing to be an addict. The only shame is not doing anything about it. The shame is watching it happen right in front of you and saying, I don't know what to do. If you don't know what to do, my phone number is 855-JOE-BRAT. If you dial that and you need help, I'm there for you, and it's free. It's free. Now, I flew in on my dime because I needed to come here to make sure that I gave you a message of hope. Because the truth is, I should be dead numerous times, emergency rooms, ambulance rides, last rites, guns to my head, which even when I do interventions, I want you to know that I've been stabbed at an intervention with a pen in the side, I've had baseball bats, guns drawn on me. That's how strong they don't want to leave their drugs. And I have never run out of a house without the kid or the person I went in for. Because if I leave without them, they could die. Because once they know the jig is up, you know what happens. They want that last hurrah. I just want to get high this weekend, that's it, I'll go Monday. Anybody ever heard that before? I'll go Monday? It's a classic. I didn't make it up. How do you know a drug addict is lying? Their lips are moving. Period. If you believe anything they say while they're actively using, you're enabling them to continue to be. All I want to hear is when you're going for help. If you're telling me you're going, I'll give you a ride or bus fare or an Uber. But don't you listen to anything they say because they're lying. You know how I know? I'm a drug addict. I lie. I manipulate it. I tell them all I wrote the book you're reading. They say, you don't know what I'm doing. I remember my grandfather told me, I know what you're doing. I was like, how could you know what I'm doing? And then I got older and I was like, oh, shoot, you knew what I was doing. You know what they're doing? Step in. Because listen, I went to do an intervention. I went to do an intervention. And I said to the parent, I have a facility that will take them, they want $1,500. They want $1,500 just to feed them. She said, we spent enough money already, we're not gonna do it. A week and a half later, I was at a $30,000 funeral for that same boy. The flowers were more than $10,000 at the funeral. It's $10,000 to have somebody embalmed. And the truth is, here's the statistics you need to know. Without treatment, 100% they will not get better. In treatment, 50-50. There are faith-based places that will take them. If you can get them emergency Medicaid, if you can put them on your policy, children are covered until they're 26 now. If you can get them insurance, get them a PPO policy, which means they can choose where they can get treatment, not go in-state to a facility that they're told to go to, which more people are mandated. They get mandated from court, either go to treatment or go to jail. So if they say they're going to treatment, that really doesn't mean they want to go there to get better. That means they want to go there and not go to jail. Maybe some do, but I haven't seen many successes there. And then your child learns how to use better instead of get better. They need a program afterwards. 28 days is the insurance company's structure on how to get better. That's not the real formula. Because 28 days is a drop in the bucket. Because I went through withdrawals for 3 months off of the opiate pills, Oxycontin, which when I was doing them came in 80 milligrams and 160 milligrams. The withdrawals were incredible, and my insurance company said 5 days, that's it. And when they opened the door and said 5 days is all you're getting, I was crying to them, please keep me, don't let me go, I'm scared. Because I was beaten. Synthetic heroin. Do you know how much the big pharmaceutical company made on that blue pill last year? $200 billion. billion. One pill. Do you think the government's going to do anything about it? You know why? Because $1 billion in lobbying money, and they still got 199 billion left. Somebody's eating good, and they're still going to make these pills, and they're still going to give them to kids, and they're still going to get them addicted to them, unless we're watching. I was at an adolescent facility the other day that the Today Show was looking for an athlete who was going to be a professional athlete who became addicted to drugs, 16, 17 years old, after he got hurt playing sports and can't do it anymore because he's addicted to drugs. The epidemic is not an epidemic, it's a pandemic. I've traveled across the country, I've done interventions in every state. In every house I